Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the council chamber, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. The massive screen before her showed something that would haunt humanity forever. The Krothek were broadcasting it live to every species in the galaxy. The colony ship New Dawn floated in space, silent and helpless. Inside that ship were 9 million humans, families, children, scientists, doctors, teachers, all of them sleeping in cryopods, dreaming of their new home on a distant world. They had no idea what was happening. This is what happens to those who disrespect Krothek territory. Commander Vex Eler's voice echoed through the chamber. His species looked like massive lizards that walked on 2 legs. He stood over 8 feet tall with dark scales and yellow eyes that showed no mercy. Let this be a lesson to all younger species. Know your place. Sarah watched as Krothek soldiers entered the cryo bay. They began waking the colonists in small groups. The humans woke, confused, frightened. They didn't understand what was happening. The soldiers gave them no time to think, no time to beg, no time to pray. The executions began. Sarah felt sick. She wanted to close her eyes, but she couldn't. She owed it to them to watch, to remember. Earth's military was too far away. The New Dawn had been traveling through what the Krothek called disputed space. The Galactic Council said this gave the Krothek the right to do whatever they wanted. We must remain calm, said Ambassador Torvek, a floating jellyfish-like creature from the Pelax system. The Council cannot interfere in territorial matters. It would set a dangerous precedent. Sarah turned to look at him. They're murdering 9 million people. Live. For everyone to see. It is unfortunate, another ambassador said, a being made of crystalline structures that chimed when it spoke. But the law is clear. The New Dawn entered restricted space without authorization. They were lost, Sarah said, her voice shaking. A navigation error. We sent messages explaining, the Krothek do not accept your explanation. Vex Eler said, his image appearing on a second screen. He looked directly at Sarah. Your species grows too fast. You build too much. You learn too quickly. This is a reminder that you are still children in this galaxy. Sarah watched the counter on the screen. It showed how many had died. The number climbed. 1,000. 5,000. 10,000. The Krothek were taking their time. They wanted everyone to understand what was happening. The transmission showed faces. Real people. A woman holding her daughter's hand before they were both shot. An old man who had survived Earth's resource wars only to die in the cold of space. Young couples who had just gotten married. All of them gone. We demand you stop this immediately, Sarah said, standing up. Her voice carried across the chamber. This is not justice. This is murder. Sit down, Admiral, Torvek said. You are embarrassing yourself and your species. Sarah remained standing. I will not sit while my people are slaughtered. The other ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away from the screens. Others watched with cold interest. As if this was just another day in galactic politics. Sarah realized something terrible in that moment. The Council didn't care. To them, humanity was new. Unimportant. Disposable. The massacre continued for 72 hours. Vex Eler made sure it was slow. He wanted the galaxy to remember. He wanted humanity to learn, fear. Every few hours, he would appear on screen to announce the death count. His voice was proud, satisfied. 1 million dead, he would say. Then later, 3 million. Then, 6 million. Sarah didn't sleep. She couldn't eat. She watched every moment. She memorized faces. Names appeared on the screen as people died. She read them all. Dr. James Martinez, Engineer Lisa Okonkwo, Teacher Robert Kim, Little Emma Webb, age 7, Emma Webb, the Secretary General's granddaughter. She had been so excited to see the new world. Sarah had met her Before the ship launched, the little girl had hugged her and said, "Keep everyone safe, Admiral." Sarah had failed. When the counter reached 9 million, the screen went dark. Every colonist was dead. The new dawn was now a tomb floating in space. Vexilor appeared one final time. "This matter is concluded," he said. "We hope humanity has learned wisdom today." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species called for investigations. Others praised the Krothek for their strength. A few expressed sympathy for Earth. But no one did anything. No one would help. The message was clear. Humanity was alone. Sarah walked out of the chamber in silence. Her communicator buzzed. It was a secure channel from Earth. Secretary General Marcus Webb appeared. His eyes were red. His face was pale. His granddaughter was dead. "Admiral Chen," he said quietly, "return to Earth immediately. Bring all our people home. Every ambassador, every trade mission, everyone." "Sir, what are we going to do?" Webb's face hardened. Sarah had never seen him look like that before. He had always been a peaceful man, a diplomat. But something had changed in his eyes. "We're going to remember them, Admiral. All 9 million, every single name, every single face." He paused. "And then we're going to make sure this never happens again." "How?" "Protocol Nightfall, full authorization." Sarah felt her blood run cold. Protocol Nightfall was the plan nobody thought would ever be used. Total war mobilization. Every resource, every ship, every weapon, everything humanity had. "Understood, sir." The transmission ended. Sarah looked back at the council chamber one last time. The ambassadors were already moving on to other business. The Krothek were celebrating. None of them understood what was coming. Sarah spoke quietly, her words recorded for history. "Remember them all." Earth went silent. The Galactic Council chamber felt empty without the humans. 3 weeks had passed since the massacre. Every human ambassador had left. Every trade ship had returned to Earth. Every human colony had closed its borders. The silence was strange. Ambassador Torvek floated in his tank, watching the empty seats where humans used to sit. "Have they sent any messages?" he asked. "Nothing," said Ambassador Krell, a insect-like being from the hive worlds. "Complete communications blackout. Even their public networks are closed. They're scared," Vexilor said, his large form dominating the council floor. "As they should be. They have learned their place. But some species weren't so sure. The Pelax had been in the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had seen many species come and go. Torvek had seen wars that lasted centuries. This silence felt wrong. "Kalagida, Kalagida, Kalagida. I think we should be concerned," Torvek said carefully. "Concerned?" Vexilor laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "Of what?" "The humans are children. They have been in space for barely a century. Their military is small. Their technology is adequate but not special. They cannot threaten the Krothek Empire. The port. Their technology is adequate by. They built a fleet of 10,000 trade ships in 30 years, Krell noted. Their industrial capacity is remarkable. Trade ships are not warships, Vexilor said dismissively. Let them hide in their little solar system. Let them fear us. It is better this way. On Earth, something very different was happening. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the war room beneath Geneva. Around her, holographic displays showed the entire Sol system. Every asteroid mining station, every orbital factory, every shipyard, all of it was working at maximum capacity now. "Report," she said. General Torres pulled up the numbers. "All civilian shipyards have been converted to military production. We've retrofitted 4,000 cargo haulers as support vessels. Construction has begun on 8,000 new warships. Estimated completion in 5 months. Weapons development?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka stepped forward. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. We've finished testing the antimatter lance. It works. We've also had breakthroughs in quantum disruption, torpedoes, and gravitational singularity mines. How many? We can produce 50,000 units per month once we scale up production. Sarah nodded. Before the massacre, these weapons had been theoretical. Too expensive. Too dangerous. The Galactic Council had treaties banning some of them, but Earth wasn't part of those treaties anymore. And Earth didn't care about cost. Intelligence update, Sarah said. Colonel Park activated his display. We've successfully extracted complete data on Krothek military installations, fleet positions, and supply lines. We have the location of every major military base in their empire. Their homeworld's defensive grid is mapped. We know where their leaders live. Affer. How did we get all this? Park smiled slightly. Turns out, a lot of species don't like the Krothek very much. They were happy to sell information. The Pelax, especially. Ambassador Torvik has been very helpful through back channels. Sarah filed that away. Maybe not all of the council was their enemy. What about civilian populations? Sarah asked. Identified and mapped. We can target military assets without significant civilian casualties if we're precise. We will be precise, Sarah said firmly. This is not about revenge. This is about justice. We're not the Krothek. Secretary General Webb entered the room. He looked older now. Status report, Admiral? We'll be ready in 5 months, sir. Maybe 4 if we push harder. Push harder, Webb said. Every day we wait. They think we've accepted what happened. They think we're afraid. He paused. How many names have we compiled? All 9 million, sir. Every single person on the New Dawn. Full biographies, photos, family histories, everything. Webb nodded. Good. When the time comes, I want the galaxy to know exactly who the Krothek killed. Not numbers. People. Across the galaxy, the Krothek were expanding their influence. With humans gone from the Council, there was a power vacuum. Vexilor filled it eagerly. He pushed for new territories. He demanded tribute from weaker species. He spoke often about Krothek superiority. Kelnash, a young Krothek officer, watched his commander with growing unease. He had not been part of the New Dawn massacre. He had been stationed on a frontier world. When he saw the broadcasts, he felt something his species wasn't supposed to feel: shame. Commander Vexilor grows more aggressive, Kelnash said to his friend Torvash. He is strong. The strong take what they want. This is our way. But 9 million beings. Many were children. Torvash looked at him sharply. Careful, Kelnash. Such thoughts are dangerous. The Council approved our actions. We did nothing wrong. But Kelnash couldn't shake the feeling. He had studied the humans. Their history was violent, yes. But they also showed capacity for great cooperation. They had unified their entire planet. They had eliminated poverty and disease. They had reached for the stars, with hope, and now they were silent. Kelnash pulled up human history files. He read about Earth's wars, the world wars, the resource wars, the unity conflicts. Humanity had fought itself many times. They knew war intimately. He found something that made his blood cold. A human quote from an ancient soldier. Beware the fury of a patient man. The humans were patient. 5 months after the massacre, Earth sent its first transmission to the Galactic Council. It was brief. Admiral Chen appeared on every screen, every channel, across the galaxy. She stood in her uniform. Behind her, the names of the dead scrolled continuously. 9 million names. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth, she said calmly. We are coming. Clear the space between here and the Krothek Empire. Any ship that interferes will be considered hostile. This is your only warning. She really too. The transmission ended. Vexilor laughed when he heard it. Let them come. We will crush them like insects. But Torvik, floating in his tank light years away, felt fear. He had lived a long time. He had seen many wars, and he had learned that the most dangerous species weren't the ones who screamed and raged. They were the ones who went silent, the ones who remembered, the ones who planned. The edge of Krothek space had been quiet for decades. The defense station orbited a mining planet, monitoring traffic and watching for pirates. Nothing interesting ever happened here, until the sensors started screaming. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL, the Krothek sensor operator said. Counting 20. No. 50. Wait. The number kept climbing. 100. 500. 1,000. The operator's hands shook as he entered the commands. Get me fleet command, the station commander ordered. Now. 2,000. 5,000. 10,000. 10,000 human warships appeared at the edge of Krothek space. They were sleek and dark, covered in strange angles that scattered sensor signals. The fleet formed up in perfect formation, so precise it looked artificial. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Remembrance. Around her, officers worked quietly, efficiently. There was no excitement, no shouting, just calm professionalism. All ships report ready, Admiral, her tactical officer said. Send the message, Sarah ordered. A single transmission broadcast to the Krothek defense station. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilian personnel from this system. After that, all military targets will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. The station commander stared at his screen. He had 3 defense platforms and 12 warships, against 10,000. Evacuate the planet, he ordered. All civilians. Move now. Exactly 1 hour later, the human fleet moved forward. The Krothek warships opened fire first. Their plasma cannons hit the human shields and dispersed harmlessly. The defense platforms launched missiles. The humans shot them down with laser point defense. Then the humans fired back. The antimatter lances punched through Krothek shields like they weren't there. Each shot was perfectly calculated. The defense platforms exploded in seconds. The warships tried to scatter, but quantum disruption torpedoes warped space around them, crushing their hulls. The entire battle lasted 11 minutes. Every Krothek military asset in the system was destroyed. The human fleet didn't lose a single ship. Civilian evacuation is complete, the scanning officer reported. No. Civilian casualties. Move to the next system, Sarah ordered. The galaxy watched in shock. The humans were broadcasting everything. Every battle. Every engagement. Just like the Krothek had broadcast the massacre. But the humans did it differently. The humans did it differently. The humans they showed their precision, their restraint, their mercy towards civilians. Vex Elor watched from his command ship in orbit around the Krothek homeworld. His yellow eyes narrowed. Send the second fleet. Crush them. The second fleet was massive. 500 capital ships. 3,000 support vessels. It had never been defeated. They met the human fleet at the Korvax system. The Krothek admiral was confident. They outnumbered the human force 3-1. But the humans fought like nothing the Krothek had ever seen. They didn't charge forward. They didn't try to overwhelm. They moved like surgeons. Human ships used gravitational singularity mines to control space. The Krothek fleet found itself unable to maneuver. Then the humans attacked from 3 directions at once, targeting command ships first. Without coordination, the Krothek fleet fell apart. When it was over, the Krothek had lost 60% of their fleet. The humans offered the survivors a choice: surrender or die. Most chose to surrender. The humans took them prisoner and treated them well, fed them, gave them medical care. The Krothek soldiers were confused. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. Kelnash was in the 3rd Fleet when the humans attacked his position. He watched his commander order them to fire on a civilian transport that was trying to flee the battle. Sir, that's a civilian ship, Kelnash protested. "It might be hiding humans. Destroy it." Before the order could be carried out, human fighters swept in. They disabled Kelnash's ship with electromagnetic pulses, then boarded it. Kelnash expected to die. Instead, the human soldiers secured the ship and moved his commander to a holding cell. A human officer approached Kelnash. She was small compared to him, but she carried herself with confidence. "I'm Lieutenant Morrison," she said in perfect Krothek language. "Are you wounded?" Kelnash shook his head, surprised. "No." "Are you going to execute us?" "Execute you?" "No. You're prisoners of war. You'll be treated according to the Geneva Conventions." She paused. "Do you know what those are?" "No. Rules for warfare. How to treat prisoners humanely. How to protect civilians. We follow them, even when our enemies don't." Kelnash looked at her. "Because that's what separates us from monsters." The war continued for 3 weeks. The human fleet cut through Krothek space like a blade. They destroyed military bases. They captured weapons factories. They disabled communication networks. But they always evacuated civilians first. They always offered surrender. They always followed their rules. The galaxy couldn't believe what it was seeing. The humans were winning, easily. Species that had considered humanity weak now watched in fear. If humans could do this to the Krothek, what could they do to anyone else? Ambassador Torvek watched the broadcasts from his tank. The council was in emergency session. Many species demanded they intervene. Stop the humans. But how? Nobody wanted to fight a species that had just destroyed the Krothek military. "We should have helped them," Torvek said quietly. "When the New Dawn was attacked, we should have stopped it. The law was clear," another ambassador said weakly. "The law was wrong." On the 20th day of the war, the human fleet arrived at the Krothek homeworld. 10,000 ships surrounded the planet. Billions of Krothek looked up at the sky and saw their doom. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and opened a transmission. It went to every screen on the planet. Every device. Every display. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. 21 days ago, your government murdered 9 million humans. You watched it happen. Some of you cheered." The screen behind her changed. It showed faces. Human faces. One after another. Men. Women. Children. Elderly. All of them, smiling in pictures taken before they died. These are their faces. These are their names. Dr. James Martinez. He was going to cure genetic diseases. Engineer Lisa Okonkwo. She designed water purification systems. Teacher Robert Kim. He taught history. Little Emma Webb. She was 7 years old and loved to paint. The names continued scrolling. For hours. 9 million names. 9 million faces. The Krothek population watched. Some looked away. Some felt something they had never felt, before guilt. "We have not forgotten them. We will never forget them," Sarah continued. "Your military is broken. Your fleets are destroyed. Your government committed an atrocity and told us to accept it. We did not accept it. We will never accept it." She paused. The entire galaxy held its breath. "These are our terms: complete and immediate disarmament, dismantling of your military government, free elections, war crimes, trials for those responsible, reparations to Earth. You have 24 hours to comply." Vex Elor appeared on Krothek broadcasts. His scales were dark with rage. "Never. We will fight to the last. We will." His transmission cut off. Kelnash and other young officers had arrested him. They had seen enough. Vex Elor sat in chains in his own command center. Young Krothek officers surrounded him, their weapons pointed at their former commander. Kelnash stood at the communications console, his claws shaking slightly as he opened a channel to the human fleet. "This is Officer Kelnash of the Krothek Defense Force. Commander Vex Elor has been arrested. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the screen. She studied Kelnash carefully. You're not authorized to negotiate. Where is your government? The government is in chaos. Many officials have fled. Those who remain refuse to act. Kelnash hesitated. Commander Vex Elor was planning something. Something terrible. We stopped him. But what? He already launched weapons. Planet killers. 3 of them. Targeted at your colony worlds. Sarah's face went pale. Which colonies? New Terra, New Beijing, Nova São Paulo. Sarah spun to her tactical officer. Get me intercept solutions now. The bridge erupted in controlled chaos. Officers worked frantically. The human fleet split. Ships racing toward the 3 colonies at maximum speed. Sarah gripped her chair, watching the displays. New Terra intercept in 40 seconds, her officer called out. We'll make it. We'll. The human ships arrived just in time. They destroyed the planet killer with concentrated fire. 1 down. Sarah let out a breath. New Beijing? Intercept in 15 seconds. The weapon was faster than expected. The human ships fired everything they had. The planet killer exploded, but fragments continued on course. They hit the colony's orbital stations. 15,000 people died instantly. Nova São Paulo. Silence. Lieutenant. Report. We're not going to make it, Admiral. The weapon will impact in 5 minutes. 35,000 people on the surface. Sarah closed her eyes. Evacuate what we can. They saved 12,000. 23,000 died when the planet killer hit, turning the colony's main city into molten glass. Sarah stood frozen on her bridge. Around her, officers worked to coordinate rescue efforts. But all she could see were the numbers. 50,000 more dead. 50,000 more names to remember. Admiral, her communications officer said quietly, the Krothek homeworld is requesting to speak with you. Sarah's hands formed fists. She had planned this carefully. Precisely. No unnecessary casualties. Surgical strikes. Justice, not vengeance. But Vex Elor had forced her hand. He had murdered 50,000 more people in a desperate attempt to hurt humanity. Put them through. Kelnash appeared on screen. Behind him, Krothek civilians filled the command center. They looked scared. Admiral Chen, please, we surrender. Unconditionally. The people have overthrown the government. Vex Elor's supporters are being arrested. We accept all your terms. Vex Elor's, undasigt. 50,000 more, Sarah said quietly. 50,000 more humans are dead because of your commander's final act. I know. We tried to stop him. We were too late. Kelnash's voice cracked. What he did, what our empire did, it was wrong. We see that now. Please, don't punish our people for our leader's crimes. Sarah wanted to scream. She wanted to order her fleet to destroy every military installation on that planet. But she had promised herself she would not become like the Krothek. She would not murder civilians in revenge. Stand by, she said. Sarah opened a secure channel to Earth. Secretary General Webb appeared. He looked as devastated as she felt. I heard, Webb said. 50,000 more, including 3,000 children, sir. 200 were on a school transport. Webb closed his eyes. When he opened them again, Sarah saw tears, but she also saw resolve. What are your recommendations? Admiral, the Krothek people want peace. The military has been overthrown. If we continue attacking, we become the monsters. She paused. But we can't let Vex Elor and his commanders walk away. No. We can't. Webb straightened. Accept their surrender. But on these conditions, Vex Elor and every officer involved in both massacres face trial. Public trial. The galaxy needs to see justice done. What about the Krothek military infrastructure? Dismantle it. All of it. They can keep defense forces, but nothing capable of launching another war. Sarah nodded. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. But it was the right thing to do. She opened the channel back to Kel Nash. We accept your surrender with conditions. All military installations on your homeworld will be destroyed in the next hour. You will evacuate military personnel only. Civilian areas will not be targeted. Understood. Vex Elor and every officer who participated in the New Dawn massacre, or today's attack, will be turned over for trial. Not by humans alone. By a tribunal of all galactic species. Kel Nash looked relieved. Yes, absolutely. They should face justice. Your empire will be dismantled. You can keep your homeworld and your colonies, but under supervision, until you prove you can govern responsibly. We accept. Sarah gave the order. Human ships targeted every military base, every weapons factory, every shipyard on the Krothek homeworld. The strikes were precise. No civilian casualties. Within 1 hour, the Krothek military capacity was reduced to nothing. As the smoke cleared, Sarah broadcast one final message to the galaxy. All species saw it. Every station played it. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. The Krothek Empire has surrendered. Their military is destroyed. Those responsible for the murder of 9,050,000 humans will face trial. She paused. This war could have been avoided. If the Galactic Council had acted when we asked, if anyone had said that slaughtering civilians was wrong. She looked directly into the camera. Humanity will not forget this lesson. We will rebuild our colonies. We will mourn our dead. And we will make sure this never happens again. To anyone. If the Council won't protect innocent lives, then Earth will. Ambassador Torvek watched the broadcast from the Council chamber. Around him, other ambassadors shifted nervously. The humans had just announced they would enforce galactic law themselves. This is unprecedented. One ambassador said. They can't simply decide to police the galaxy. End quote. Can't they? Torvek asked. Who will stop them? They just destroyed the second most powerful military in the galaxy. In 3 weeks. The chamber fell silent. On the Krothek homeworld, civilians emerged from shelters. They saw their military installations burning. They saw human ships in orbit, weapons still hot. But they also saw human medical ships landing, bringing aid to those injured in the brief battle. Kel Nash stood in the command center, watching Vex Elor being transferred to human custody. The former commander's yellow eyes burned with hate. You are a traitor, Vex Elor hissed. You have doomed our species. No, Kel Nash said quietly. You doomed us. When you killed those 9 million humans, you signed our death warrant. The miracle is that they showed us mercy. The human guards led Vex Elor away. He would face trial. He would be judged. And he would be punished. As the sun set on the Krothek homeworld, Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, looking at the planet below. 50,000 more names to add to the memorial. 50,000 more families to notify. 50,000 more reasons to never let this happen again. Set course for Earth, she ordered. It's time to go home. 6 months had passed since the war ended. The memorial floated in orbit around Earth, a massive ring of metal and crystal that caught the sunlight and turned it into rainbow colors. On its surface, etched in letters small enough to require magnification but large enough to read, were 9,050,000 names. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the memorial station. She came here every week. Sometimes, she just stood and looked at the names. Sometimes, she read them aloud. Today, she was reading the children's names. It always hurt the most. Emma Webb, age 7. Loved painting and horses. Thomas Park, age 5. Wanted to be a spaceship captain. Aria Johnson, age 9. Played violin and won 3 competitions. Admiral Chen? Sarah turned. A young Krothek stood behind her, looking nervous. It was Kel Nash. He had been appointed as the Krothek representative to Earth. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said. I wanted to. I needed to see it. Sarah nodded toward the window. Every name, every face, every story. Understand time. 2 week. Understand. Kelnash approached slowly. His species was large and powerful, but he moved carefully, as if afraid to disturb something sacred. He looked at the names, and Sarah saw his eyes fill with tears. She didn't know Krothek could cry. I read about them every day, Kelnash said quietly. The humans who died. I learned their names, their lives, what they dreamed about. He touched the window glass gently. Emma Webb wanted to paint the new world's flowers. Thomas Park wanted to captain a ship like yours. Aria Johnson was going to teach music to children on the colony. Why do you do this? Sarah asked. Because my species did this. Because I need to understand what we destroyed. Because, his voice broke. Because if I don't remember them, who will? After you're gone, after your generation passes, someone must remember what hatred costs. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. For 6 months she had carried rage and grief, but looking at this young Krothek, tears running down his scaled face as he read the names of human children, she felt something else. Hope. Maybe. Come with me, she said. She led him through the memorial. Every section told a different story. Here were the scientists who would have cured diseases. There were the engineers who would have built new cities. Here were the families, the lovers, the friends, all gone. At the center of the memorial was a room. In that room, suspended in a field of light, was a single object, a child's painting. Emma Webb had made it before the journey. It showed 2 hands, one human and one alien, holding each other against a backdrop of stars. Webb wanted us to keep this, Sarah said. Kelnash stared at the painting. She dreamed of friendship between species. She dreamed of peace. They stood in silence for a while. Finally, Kelnash spoke. The trials begin next week. Sarah nodded. Vexilor and 200 other Krothek officers would face justice. Not just human justice. A tribunal of judges from 20 different species. Even Krothek judges. It would be fair. It would be public. The galaxy would watch justice being served. My people are changing, Kelnash said. We elected a new government. We're writing new laws. Laws that protect civilians. That prevent war crimes. That value life. He paused. We studied your history. Your Geneva Conventions. Your human rights declarations. We're adopting similar rules. Words on paper mean nothing without enforcement, Sarah said. I know. That's why we've asked Earth to help oversee our military for the next decade, to make sure we follow the rules. Sarah looked at him. You trust us to do that fairly? You destroyed our military in 3 weeks. You could have wiped out our species. Instead, you gave us medical aid. You helped evacuate civilians. You treated our prisoners well. Kelnash met her eyes. Yes. We trust you. We know. We trust you. We know. We know. We know. We know. Later that day, Sarah stood in the Galactic Council chamber. It looked different now. The council had changed. Reformed. Species that had voted to ignore the New Dawn massacre were under pressure from their own people. Populations across the galaxy had watched the war. They had seen human precision, human mercy, human strength, and they had seen their own governments do nothing. Ambassador Torvek floated forward in his tank. The council recognizes Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. Sarah stood. She wore her uniform. On her chest was a medal, the Memorial Star. Every human involved in the war wore one. It had 9,050,000 points, one for each person who died. The council has drafted new protocols, Torvek said. Rules for the prevention of atrocities. Mechanisms for intervention. When civilians are threatened, enforcement provisions. He paused. We would like Earth to lead the new peacekeeping force. Sarah had read the proposals. They were good. Actually good. The Council had learned its lesson. Too late for 9 million. 50,000 humans. But maybe not too late for others. Earth will accept, with conditions, Sarah said. The peacekeeping force must be independent. Not controlled by any one species or government. It must have authority to act immediately when civilians are threatened. And it must be accountable to all species, not just the powerful ones. Agreed, Torvek said. Other ambassadors nodded. Some looked relieved. Others looked nervous. The balance of power had shifted. There's one more thing, Sarah said. She pulled up a hologram. It showed a ship design. This is the UES New Dawn 2. Construction begins next month. It will carry 10 million colonists to the world the first New Dawn never reached. We're going to finish their journey. 9:40. 9:40. 9:40. The chamber was quiet. Then, slowly, ambassadors began to stand. Or float. Or hover. Whatever their species did to show respect. Even former enemies. Even those who had voted against helping Earth, because they understood now. Humanity remembered. Humanity rebuilt. Humanity moved forward. But humanity never forgot. 3 years later, the New Dawn 2 reached its destination. 10 million humans stepped onto a new world. They named the first city, Emma. The first hospital, Martinez. The first school, Okonkwo. Every street, every building, every park, was named for someone who died. Sarah Chen, now retired from the military, stood at the dedication ceremony. Secretary General Webb stood beside her. He was older now, grayer, but he smiled as he watched children play in Emma Park. She would have loved this, he said quietly. Yes, Sarah agreed. A Krothek delegation had come to the ceremony. Young Krothek, who had never served in the old empire. They brought gifts, art, music, technology, but the most important gift was a monument they built in the center of the city. It was carved from stone brought from the Krothek homeworld. On it were words in both human and Krothek languages. We remember. We learn. We change. Never again. Kelnash approached Sarah. He was older too, with scars from fighting to reform his species. We're still learning, he said. Still changing. Some of my people still hate humans. Still believe we did nothing wrong. Change takes time, Sarah said. Yes. But we're trying. Because of you. Because you showed us that strength without mercy is just brutality. But mercy without strength is just weakness. You showed us both. A child ran past them, a human girl, maybe 7 years old. She was laughing, chasing a ball. She reminded Sarah of Emma Webb. The girl stopped when she saw Kelnash. Most children were still nervous around Krothek. But this girl walked right up to him. You're really tall, she said. Kelnash knelt down to her level. You're really brave. Why? Because you're not afraid. The girl thought about this. My mom says we remember the past but don't live in it. We build the future. She held up her ball. Want to play? Kelnash looked at Sarah. She nodded. He took the ball gently in his claws and tossed it back to the girl. She laughed and ran off. Building the future, Kelnash said softly. Yes, Sarah said. But never forgetting the past. She looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the memorial orbited Earth. 9 million. 50,000 names shining in the light. They would shine forever. A reminder. A warning. A promise. Humanity had learned long ago that peace was worth fighting for. That justice was worth the cost. That some things were worth remembering forever. And the galaxy had learned that humanity kept its promises. All of them. The children played in Emma Park as the sun set on the new world. Human children, and Krothek children together. Learning, growing, building something better. It wasn't perfect. It would never erase what happened. But it was hope. And hope was enough to start. Sarah Chen walked through the park one last time as the stars came out. She whispered the names she would never forget. Emma Webb, Thomas Park, Aria Johnson, James Martinez, Lisa Okonkwo, Robert Kim. The galaxy was different now. Safer. Better. But it had cost 9,050,000 lives to change it. Sarah would make sure the galaxy never forgot the price of peace. Never.